everybody. It's Brian, and today I'm going to be reading chapter 13. I plunged to my death. We spent 2 days on the Amtrak train, heading west through hills, over rivers, past amber waves of grain. We weren't attacked once, but I didn't relax. I felt that we were traveling around in a display case, being watched from above and maybe from below. That something was waiting for the right opportunity. I tried to keep a low profile because my name and picture were splattered over the front pages of several East Coast newspapers. The Trenton Register News showed a photo taken by a tourist as I got off the Greyhound bus. I had a wild look in my eyes. My sword was a metallic blur in my hands. It might have been a baseball bat or a lacrosse stick. The picture caption read, 12-year-old Percy Jackson wanted for questioning in Long Island disappearance of his mother 2 weeks ago. Is shown here fleeing from the bus where he accosted several elderly female passengers. The bus exploded on the East New Jersey roadside shortly after Jackson fled the scene. Based on eyewitness accounts, police believe that the boy may have been traveling with two teenage accomplices. His stepfather, Gabe Ugolino, has offered a cash reward for information leading to his capture. Don't worry, Annabeth told me. Mortal police could never find us. But she didn't sound so sure. The rest of the day, I spent alternately pacing the length of the train because I had a really hard time sitting still or looking out the windows. Once, I spotted a family of centaurs galloping across a wheat field, bows at the ready as they hunted lunch. The little boy centaur, who was the size of a second grader on a pony, caught my eye and waved. I looked around the passenger car, but nobody else had noticed. The adult riders all had their faces buried in a laptop computer or magazine. Another time, toward evening, I saw something huge moving through the woods. I could have sworn it was a lion, except lions don't live wild in America. And this thing was the size of a Hummer. Its fur glinted gold in the evening light, then it leaped through the trees. Okay, scholars, I noticed something here. There is a metaphor. Its fur glinted gold in the evening light. So it's kind of getting related to gold as how shiny it is when you see it in the dark. Our reward money was for returning Gladolia. The poodle had only been enough to purchase tickets as far as Denver. We couldn't get berths in a sleeper car, so we dozed in our seats. My neck got stiff. I tried not to drool in my sleep, since Annabeth was sitting right next to me. Grover kept snoring and bleating and waking me up. Once he shuffled around and his fake foot fell off. Annabeth and I had to stick it back on before any of the other passengers noticed. So, Annabeth told me, once we'd gotten Grover's sneakers readjusted, who wants your help? What do you mean? When you were asleep just now, you mumbled, I won't help you. Who are you dreaming about? I was reluctant to say anything. It was the second time I dreamed about the evil voice from the pit, but it bothered me, so I finally told her. Annabeth was quiet for a long time. That doesn't sound like Hades. He always appears on a black throne and never laughs. He offered my mother in trade. Who else could do that? I guess if he meant help me rise from the underworld, if he wants war with the Olympians, well, why did I ask you to bring him the Master Ball if he already has it? I shook my head, wishing I knew the answer. I thought about what Grover had told me, that the Furies on the bus seemed to have been looking for something. Where is it? Where? Maybe Grover sensed my emotions. He snorted in his sleep, muttered something about vegetables, and turned his head. Annabeth readjusted his cap so it covered his horn. Percy, you can't barter with Hades. You know that, right? He's deceitful, heartless, and greedy. I don't care if his kindly ones weren't aggressive this time. This time? I asked. You You've run into them before? Her hand crept up to her necklace. She fingered a glazed white bead painted with the image of a pine tree, one of her clay and of summer tokens. Let's just say I've got no love for the Lord of the Dead. You can't be tempted to make a deal for your mom. What would you say if it was your dad? That's easy, she said. I'll leave him to Rob. You're not serious. Annabeth's gray eyes fixed on me. She wore the same expression she'd worn in the woods at camp, the moment she drew her sword against the hellhound. My dad's resented me since the day I was born, Percy, she said. He never wanted a baby. When he got me, he asked Athena to take me back and raise me on Olympus because he was too busy with his work. She wasn't happy about that. She told him heroes had to be raised by their mortal parents. But how? I mean, I guess you weren't born in a hospital. I appeared on my father's doorstep in a golden cradle carried down from Olympus by Zephyr, the west wind. You'd think my dad would remember that I was a miracle, right? Like maybe he'd take some digital photo or something. But he always talked about my arrival as if I weren't the most inconvenient thing that had ever happened to him. When I was 5, he got married and totally forgot about Athena. He got a regular mortal wife and had 2 regular mortal kids, and tried to pretend I didn't exist. I stared out the train windows. The lights of a sleeping town were drifting by. I wanted to make Annabeth feel better, but I didn't know how. My mom married a really awful guy, I told her. Gopher said she did it to protect me, to hide me in the scent of human family. Maybe that's what your dad was thinking. Annabeth kept worrying about at her necklace. She was pinching the gold college ring that hung with the beads. It occurred to me that the ring must be his father's. I wondered why she wore it if she hated him so much. He doesn't care about me, she said. His wife, my stepmom, treated me like a freak. She wouldn't let me play with her children. My dad went along with her. Whenever something dangerous happened, something with monsters, they would both look at me resentfully. Like, how dare you put family in risk? Finally, I took the hint. I wasn't wanted. I ran away. How old were you? Same age as I started at camp. 7. But you couldn't have gotten all the way to Half Blood Hill by yourself, not alone. Athena watched over me, guided me toward help. I made a couple of unexpected friends who took care of me for a short time anyway. I wanted to ask what happened, but Annabeth seemed lost in sad memories. So I listened to the sound of Grover snoring and gazed out the train windows as the dark fields of Ohio Ridge. Toward the end of our
So we've just learned that Percy and Annabeth both had kind of rough home lives in the mortal world. Percy at least had his mom, who really cared about him and loved him, but he had to deal with Smelly Gabe, his stepfather. And it sounds like Annabeth's father was concerned when she was dropped on his doorstep as a baby and felt inconvenienced, like he didn't really want her. Um, so both of them have experienced these really sad childhoods at times, and they have just opened up to each other about it. Let's keep reading and find out what happens during their second day on the train. Toward the end of our second day on the train, June 13th, 8 days before the summer solstice, we passed through some golden hills over the Mississippi River into St. Louis. Annabeth craned her neck to see the gateway arch, which looked to me like a huge shopping bag handle stuck on the city. I want to do that, she sighed. What? I asked. Build something like that. You ever see the Parthenon, Percy? Only in pictures. Someday I'm going to see it in person. I'm going to build the greatest monument to the gods ever. Something that'll last 1,000 years. I laughed. You, an architect? I don't know why, but I found it funny. Just the idea of Annabeth trying to sit quietly and draw all day. Her cheeks flushed. Yes, an architect. Athena expects her children to create things, not just tear them down like a certain god of earthquakes I could mention. I watched the churning brown water of the Mississippi below. Sorry, Annabeth said. That was mean. Can't we work together a little? I pleaded. I mean, didn't Athena and Poseidon ever cooperate? Remember, their parents, Athena and Poseidon, don't get along. Annabeth had to think about it. I guess the chariot, she said tentatively. My mom invented it, but Poseidon created horses out of the crests of waves, so they had to work together to make it complete. Then we can cooperate too, right? We rode into the city, Annabeth watching as the arch disappeared behind a hotel. I suppose, she said at last. We pulled into the Amtrak station downtown. The intercom told us we'd have a 3-hour layover before departing for Denver. Grover stretched. Before he was even fully awake, he said, Food. Come on, goat boy, Annabeth said. Sightseeing. Sightseeing? The Gateway Arch, she said. This may be my only chance to ride to the top. Are you coming or not? Grover and I exchanged looks. I wanted to say no, but I figured that if Annabeth was going, we couldn't very well let her go alone. Grover shrugged. As long as there's a snack bar without monsters. The arch was about a mile from the train station. Late in the day, the lines to get in weren't that long. We threaded our way through the underground museum, looking at covered wagons and other junk from the 1800s. It wasn't all that thrilling, but Annabeth kept telling us interesting facts about how the arch was built, and Grover kept passing me jelly beans, so I was okay. I kept looking around, though, at the other people in line. You smell anything? I murmured to Grover. He took his nose out of the jelly bean bag long enough to sniff. Underground, he said distastefully. Underground air always smells like monsters. Probably doesn't mean anything. But something felt wrong to me. I had a feeling we shouldn't be here. Guys, I said, you know the god symbols of power? Annabeth had been in the middle of reading about the construction equipment used to build the arch, but she looked over. Yeah? Well, Grover cleared his throat. We're in a public place. You mean our friend downstairs? Right, I said. Our friend way downstairs. Doesn't he have a hat like Annabeth's? You mean the Helm of Darkness? Annabeth said. Yeah, that's his symbol of power. I saw it next to his seat during the Winter Solstice Council meeting. He was there? I asked. She nodded. It's the only time he's allowed to visit Olympus, the darkest day of the year. But his helm is a lot more powerful than my invisibility hat, if what I've heard is true. It allows him to become darkness, Grover confirmed. He can melt into shadow or pass through walls. He can't be touched or seen or heard. And he can radiate fear so intense it can drive you insane or stop your heart. Why? Why do you think all the rational creatures fear the dark? But then, how do we know he's not here right now watching us? I asked. Annabeth and Grover exchanged looks. We don't, Grover said. Oh my. We will find out tomorrow if Percy's prediction is right and if Hades is among them in the underground museum. Thank you to Brian for being our guest reader today. If you want to read a few pages of a future chapter, be sure to reach out to me, send me a message on Dojo or Google Classroom, and I can teach you how to record. Have a great day.